So let's say you have a company of 1,000 employees, and even if you don't have it, may God bless you with one, and I'm sure you can do it if you want to do it. All right, and you have the job to create 1,000 business cards for each and every employee. Now the names will be different in every business card. If the business card has a placeholder for photo, the photos would be different, right? So as a professional graphic designer, to save time, let's say you created a business card template. Now, even if you have a template, you would have to open up the template, add the photo of that person, add the name of that person, add his or her details or address or phone number, and then export it. And you would have to do the same for every 1,000 employee, and it's going to take you a very long time, right? We don't have to take that route because Photoshop has a feature called variables. What variables allows you to do, so let's say you have a list of names in an Excel sheet and you have the contact details and you have all the photos of all of the employees in a directory. You can program Photoshop to automatically pick up the name, pick up the details, and also pick up the photos and automatically create those 1,000 business cards. Same goes with ID cards. Let's say you are the principal or the graphic design department head of a school and you have to create 4,000 ID cards for all of your students. You can use the same technique right here. Or even if you're a photographer, you're creating an album and every page has a photo with a quote on it. So you create a template, Photoshop will automatically pick up the quote, pick up the photo, or pick up any text you want automatically and create the entire album for you, even if it has 1,000,000 photos. That is the beauty of using variables in Photoshop. In this video, we're going to learn all about variables, how to use them, how to create data, how to create the template, and everything you might need to know. So without any further ado, let's get started. Before we begin, I have an important announcement for you, my friend, and that is, please do watch the video till the end, because in the end, I have some important warnings or things you need to look out for this technique to work. There are certain points that you need to keep in mind, certain rules that need to be followed for this to work. And I'm going to cover that in the end. So please do watch it. Even if you skip till the end, I don't mind it, but don't miss those points. All right. Let's get back to the video. Back in the brilliant world of Photoshop, and working with variables includes 4 steps. And before we jump into the first step, step number 0 is work in the same folder. Have the template, the details, the images, all in the same folder for everything to work smoothly and keep things organized. Right? So here I have a folder. I already made a template. I'm going to share you the details of the template. But right now, let's take a look at the folder. So here I have my folder called variables. Doesn't matter what the name of the folder is. In that folder, I have the photo of all of my employees. Not all of them are real employees. And then I have the template for my business card. And I have the business card details, which has the name, the phone numbers, or whatever you want to have it in the details. You can have it right in here in the same folder, right? This is also to keep it organized and for things to work smoothly. If there are certain things on different folders, like the templates on different folders, images on different folders, then it can get very tricky to work with variables. All right, to keep it simple, just have it on one folder. Now let's move on to step number 1. Step number 1 is simply creating the templates. I already have a template for you. Let me take you through it. It's very simple, doesn't have to be complicated. Also, if you want to download templates from the internet, you can do that as well. So in the background, I have a simple design, right? On top of that, I have a placeholder for the image. This is just a simple shape where we will place the image and clip to it, all right? On top of that, we have a badge. Let's say you want this badge that says Employee of the Year. And on certain business cards, you don't want this badge. So I'm going to show you how to turn it on for certain business cards and turn it off for the other business cards all automatically. Then we of course have the first name and the last name. Then of course, the designation and the website. So in this business cards, we will definitely change the first name and the last name and the designation and the visibility of the Employee of the Year badge. And also, not to forget, we will be changing the profile photo. So let's bring in a photo and let's see how it's going to look before we finalize this template. All right, so I have a lot of photos, so I'm just going to drag and drop in my photo just right there and make sure you size it properly. Also, to make sure that your photos are set properly, placed properly, at least have the same aspect ratio. It's highly preferable. All right. So let me resize that according to that shape, and then we can make it smaller, make it just a little bigger than the shape. Okay, just like this. All right. Now we want to clip it to the shape. We only want to limit it to that shape of the image placeholder. So hold the Alt key or the Option key and click on the line between these two layers of the image placeholder and the image layer. Click on it so it will be limited. And now you can press Ctrl or Command T and adjust it to your liking. So this seems good to me. I'm going to keep it this way. To be able to replace an image or a pixel by a variable, it has to be a pixel. When it comes to images, smart objects won't work with variables. So right click on the image and let's click on rasterize layer, and we're going to name this image. Okay. Now, if you want to stylize the image, you can do that as well. So click on the adjustment layer icon and then choose solid color, and probably I want to choose a dark blue color like this. Also, I want to limit it to the image. So hold the Alt key or the Option key, click on the line between these two layers, and let's set the blend mode to lighten. Creates that nice look. On top of that, we're going to create one more solid color adjustment layer, and then we're going to pick this pink color. Hit OK. Also, we want to limit it. So hold the Alt key or the Option key, click on the line between these two layers, change the blend mode to multiply. Just stylizes the image a little bit. So I'm going to decrease the opacity of that one to probably 75 and decrease the opacity of the blue color to probably, let's go for 50. How do you feel about that? That looks good. Very nice template. Also, one more essential thing to keep in mind, that before you finalize this template, make sure that the alignment of your text is set properly. So right here, if you double click on the T of the first name, you will notice that the text is aligned to the left, which is right. However, if you see that the text is aligned to the center and you kind of moved it right there, then the problem would be when the names are changed or replaced, the text won't be aligned anymore. So let's say you say to Photoshop, all right, replace Unmesh with another name, and Photoshop tries to replace it, and this will happen. See, if it's a short name, see, it's not aligned properly. If it's a long name, see, again, it's not aligned properly. See what's happening right there? So make sure that the name is aligned properly. So in this case, it would be aligned to the left, and then you might want to move it just like this. So let's type in my name right there. There you go. Wonderful template. Just make sure everything is properly aligned and you're ready to go. Step number 2 is simply setting up the data. This is where you create the list of the names, their details, their images, and also whether to include certain images or not, so on and so forth. This is where you just create the data which Photoshop will use to create custom business cards, custom pages, custom design elements. You get the point. Now you can type in the data in a program like Microsoft Excel, or if you don't have Excel, you can also do it in Google Sheets. You can use any spreadsheet program. So let's say if you don't have Excel, you can go to sheets.google.com. It will open Google Sheets, and here you can start typing. There are 2 formats that Photoshop supports: TXT files and CSV files. So as long as your spreadsheet program can export in any one of these formats, you're good to go. All right, now let me take you through the sample data that I have typed in Microsoft Excel. All right, if you have a close look, I have the column headings, separate columns, and then I have the data right there. The first column right here is simply the first name. And if you look closely at all of the column headings, I have typed them in lowercase, and also I have not added any space to keep things simple. Keep in mind, whatever you type in the heading is case sensitive. When you match this data with Photoshop, you have to be exactly typing whatever is in the heading back in Photoshop. So to keep things simple, keep it lowercase, try not to add spaces, and also some special characters are not allowed. So keep that in mind. This is simply first name, where we have the first name data. This is the last name data. Then we have the designation right here. Now, this is essential. We have this column called portrait, where we link the images. So in the same folder as the template, we have the images, right? And every image has a name and an extension to it, and this is normal, right? Like I have my name right here, unmeshtinda.jpg, JPG. you have to be very exact when you type in the data right there. So if we go back to Excel, have a look. First name Unmesh, last name Dinda, Photoshop instructor, portrait Unmesh Dinda.jpg. You have to be very exact. Now then there is badge. What is badge? Badge is simply for the employee of the year badge. This is the badge. So you can decide which employees get to have the luxury of having that badge in their business cards. So of course, I want to have mine. So this visibility supports only two values, true and false. If you want to make the badge visible, have true. If you don't want to make the badge visible, you guessed it, keep it false. So false is invisible, true is visible. Once you're done typing the data, we need to export it. So let's go to File, Save As, and we want to save it as text. TXT file, tab delimited. Keep that in mind. Select that option. If you're using another spreadsheet program, it doesn't have this option. You can also work with CSV. All right. And I'm going to save it in the same folder. And let's name this Business Card Details 1 because I had already created details before. So let's not confuse it. Business Card Details 1 and let's save it. Okay. Now we need to close it. So here we have the details, Business Card Details 1.txt. We have the images in the same folder. We have the template in the same folder. If you open this text file, you would notice that it is nothing but first name, then there is tab, then there is last name, then there is tab, then there is designation, tab, portrait, tab, badge. You can also create a text file directly, but it can get a little complicated and any mistake will not be tolerated with Photoshop, meaning it won't work. Also, when you're working with data like this, never keep a cell blank in between. Photoshop will show error for that. If this is still not clear to you, I would love for you to pause the video where we show the data, look at the data, how it is typed, and once you're comfortable with it, we can move forward to the next step. The next step is simply linking the data. Now you need to link the data with that template so that Photoshop can automatically customize it according to our list. When it comes to variables, you can change three types of things. Number one, you can change the text. Number two, you can control visibility, whether a certain element is visible or not. And number three is pixel replacement, meaning you can replace images. Okay. All right. To link it, all you gotta do is to select any one of these layers. It doesn't really matter now. Go to Image, Variables, and then Define. Defining is simply linking. So from here, you can select whatever layer you want. So let's choose first name. What do you want to change right here? What do you want to control? I want to do a text replacement. So check text replacement. Now right here, what would you type? Whatever you typed as column heading. Makes sense? So if we open this back in Excel, let me quickly do that. Look at the column heading for first name. You have to have this exact thing right there. This is case sensitive. All right. So you can directly copy it from right here, Control C, and then come back to Photoshop, type in right there, first name. Done. Let's come to last name. I know what this is. So just check text replacement. Let's type last name. Make sure whatever you type is the same as the column heading in your data right there. Okay. Now let's go back to Photoshop. So you want to replace last name with whatever there is in the last name column. That's what it is. And you want to replace the first name layer with whatever there is in the first name column right here. Okay. Makes sense? Now let's open back Photoshop and let's go to designation. Also in here, we want text replacement. So we will check right here and we will type designation. Just make sure spelling and everything just has to match with that of the data. Designation, everything in the designation layer will be replaced by these designations. Then you have the portrait for the image replacement. So let's go back. This is critical. So let's go to image, not the image placeholder. We want to replace the image. Have a look. We want to replace this image of my face right there with different images. All right. Image. Here we want pixel replacement. So let's check pixel replacement. What are we going to type right here? Any guesses? Let's see the data. For the images, the heading is portrait. So we will just copy this and type in right over there or paste it right over there. All right. Now, when you place an image, how do you want Photoshop to place it? Do you want the images to fit? So when the image fits, it will fit to the bounding box. And let's say if you have a square image already in there, like in this case, and one of the employees' images is very wide, if you choose fit, it will fit in that square box, leaving certain spaces. Okay. If you choose fill, it will fill that box, but it might add some crop to it. If you want to understand how this will work, just look at the example right there. If you choose fit, see what happens. The image fits and might lead to some gaps at the top and the bottom. If you choose fill, it will fill the entire thing. So I'm going to just leave it to fill because all of my images are square, so it just won't matter. So just choose fill. You can also choose as is. So it will just preserve the original size of the image. Or you can choose confirm, which will just stretch it to fit it to that bounding box. So I'm just going to choose fill, and you can also choose clip to bounding box. What will happen is if you check that, any area that is leaking, that would be just cropped out. All right. It doesn't matter in this case because we are already applying that as a clipping mask in a placeholder, right? So it doesn't matter. Just make sure that the name is same as the column heading. All right. Let's come to the badge, which is Employee of the Year. Right in here, we can control the visibility, whether this is visible or not. So let's check visibility, and the name will be, guess what? Let's see the data again. Badge, right? So just type the same thing right over here, BADGE. All right. So now, my friend, the variables are defined. Now it's time for us to import the data that we have. So right now, let's close the Excel. If it's open, Photoshop will show an error. So let's close it. I don't want to save any changes because I didn't make any changes. Now click on next. You can click on next, or you can just simply click on OK and then go to image, variables, and choose data sets. If you didn't do that, no problem at all. If you were already in the last page where you have defined the last name, first name, designation, and you can clearly tell that by that asterisk mark right there. After you have defined all of this, you can simply click on next. It'll take you to data sets, or another way is you can click on the drop down and choose data sets. Simple stuff. Now we have to import that data. So simply click on import and choose select file. And here just locate that data file, which is business card details 1. Let's load that, set it to automatic. You can also set use first column for data set names. Check that. What will happen is if it's unchecked, each data will be named as data set 1, data set 2, data set 3. It will make it a little difficult to navigate. So keep that checked. By the way, first let me show you what happens if you keep that unchecked. So if this is unchecked, let's leave the encoding to automatic, hit OK. Now you have data set 1. Make sure preview is checked. Then if you scroll through the data sets, see what happens. So this is the first set of data, which is simply Unmesh Dinda, Photoshop instructor, and employee of the year is visible and my image is there. Click on the next one, data set 2. That's my mother, by the way. She is the CEO of PiXimperfect. I made her the CEO. All right, there you go. It's her image, her name, and she doesn't have the employee of the year month because she's the CEO. Employee of the year badge, sorry. The next one is my father, president of PiXimperfect. Then we have some stock photos from the internet. By the way, congratulations to Nakagawa Kaori for becoming the employee of the year again. And then we have lots of different data sets. Isn't that amazing? Now you can scroll through the data sets. Now I think Photoshop has crashed right now. I'm so sorry. You know, that's the issue with newer version of things. And that's why I always keep an older version to keep it company. If I'm doing something serious, some commercial work, you know, trust the version which is a little older. Anyway, that gives me the opportunity to show you what happens if you keep the checkbox checked where it says use the first column as data set names. So again, I'm going to click on import, select the file, and business card details 1. Let's load it. If we keep this checked, use first column for data set names and hit OK. Instead of saying data set 1, data set 2, it uses the first name as the data set name. So this is Unmesh. If we scroll through, just make sure preview is checked to see the preview. There's my mother, father, Jane, Nakagawa, right? Different names. Now it's time for us to move on to step number 4, which is simply running the export. So let me come back to my name right here and just hit OK for now. All right. All you got to do to export all the different data sets is very simple. Go to File, right? Export, choose Data Sets as Files. That's all you got to do. Now in here, you can choose a folder where you want to save it. So I'm going to click on Select Folder and I'm going to create a folder right here called Business Cards. All right. Now inside that folder, let's open that folder and choose Select Folder. This is the folder where we want to save it. Now you have the option to save individual data sets. So if you want to test it, you can choose one of these names and then, save it and test if it works right or not. We already saw the preview. It's perfect. We want to choose all data sets. It'll just export all of the data sets. So you can have thousands and millions of names right here. Now, how do you want to name each business card? So you can choose a document name for each one of them. You can also have a data set name. So I can have the data set name as the first part of the name. And the second part of the name, we can have a data set number. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? The first one, second one, third one, fourth one. That will just keep it organized and you can customize this according to your wish. Absolutely. File extension, PSD is fine. Small PSD, that's okay. You can also save a macOS version of it. If you're working on a macOS, Windows will be one of the checkboxes. So you can keep them checked, keep them unchecked. Absolutely up to you. And then once you are ready, all you gotta do is just hit OK. Get ready to heat up your computer. Wow, I gotta say, it did that in an instant. So let's open that folder. We have the business cards folder right there. Let's open that. And here we have all the business cards. So Unmesh 1, Sunita 2, Santanu 3, Pierce 9, right? Different names and they have been numbered sequentially. All right. So if you open each and every one of them, let's open Kyler. See, it's his business card right there. Now you must be wondering, all of this is in Photoshop document. What if I want TIFFs of these? What if I want JPEGs of these? Well, that's simple too. You can simply run the image processor in Photoshop. So you can open up Photoshop, then you can go to File, Scripts, Image Processor. You can select that folder. Click on the second option where you get to select the folder. Click on Select Folder. Select the folder Business Cards. Select the folder. All right. Do you want to save it in the same location or a different location? So you can choose that. So I want to save it in the same location. Now, do you want to save it as JPEG or PSD or TIFF? That's up to you. You can run an action to them if you want to. So I'm just going to save it as JPEG just to show you, just to save a little time, and click on Run. And all of those images would be opened one by one and converted to JPEG if you're into that, or TIFF, whatever format you choose. So now when you open that folder, you would notice that there's another folder inside it called JPEG, and it has JPEG converted versions of all of them. So you can have a preview folder for it if you want. So that's all about it for variables in Photoshop. I hope this video made sense to you. Just to give you a quick little recap, step number 1, set up the template, create the template. Very simple. Step number 2 is create the data, set up the data. As simple as that. So you can create that in Microsoft Excel, Google Sheets, or any spreadsheet application, anything that can export a text file or a CSV file. Once you have the data set up and exported, then you got to link the data in Photoshop by going to Image, Variables, Define. Define the variables, select each and every layer and type in the heading of each column. Choose what option you want to change. For instance, if you want to replace the text, choose text replacement. If you want to control visibility, check visibility. If you want to do pixel replacement, check pixel replacement. All right, makes sense? So once you have defined everything, you need to go to Data Sets, import the data that you just exported from Excel or any other application, spreadsheet application, and then just go through some data, right? Check the preview, go through some data, see if everything is working. Once everything is working, we can move to step number 4, which is run the export. All you got to do is to go to File, Export, Data Sets as Files. You can set the names of the file in any which way you want and then run the export. Photoshop will do the rest automatically. Now, I did promise you some important points to keep in mind for all of this to work. Some of these are very important warnings. Point number 1, have the image and the template in the same folder. Preferably have everything in the same folder for things to work smoothly and have things organized. If you don't have the template and the images in the same folder, and if you type the image name.jpg or whatever extension there is, it won't be able to find it. Now, there is a way. You can definitely type in the image location in your computer, but that can get complicated. Alright? So have them in the same folder. Point number 2, incomplete data set will not work. So let's say you're typing the data, and in one of the sets, you didn't type in the last name. Photoshop would not respond to that data set. It will show an error. Do not leave it blank. Have something, have anything inside that blank, but have something. Point number 3, when you are adding images, have the right extensions to that. So if the image has an extension of .jpg, have .jpg right there. Don't forget to add the extension in the data. If it has JPEG, have JPEG right there in the data. Keep in mind, extensions are important. Point number 4, variable names should be exactly the column headings of the data. Remember, just as in first name layer, once we selected first name layer in the define variables dialog box, and when we were typing the name of the variable, we have to type in the exact same thing that's in the column heading of that data in the variable box. Okay, so to keep things simple, avoid adding a lot of characters, avoid adding a lot of upper cases and lower cases. I just use lower cases right there with no spaces, with no underscores, nothing complicated. Simple lowercase headings. Last but not the least, point number 5, there are 3 types of variables. Always remember 3 types of variables. Number 1 is text replacement, where we can change the text of the first name and the last name, or changed any text, right? Number 2 is pixel replacement, where we replace and change the images, just as we did with the profile photos of different employees. Number 3 is visibility. You can control visibility with variables, whether certain things are visible or not. For instance, in our example, we made employee of the year visible in certain cases and not visible with other employees. And we can control that by using the values true and false. True for visible, false for not visible. I hope this video made some sense to you. It was a little tricky, but I hope now you understand how variables work. I tried my best to make it as simple as possible for you. If it is still not clear, just pause and watch the video of how data is typed, how things are linked, and I'm sure you are amazing enough to master it in no time. Actually, it took me a lot of trials and errors and head scratching to figure it out, but I know you are way more intelligent than me. Thank you so much for watching this video. I would like to take this moment to thank all these nice and amazing people for helping me keep PiXimperfect free for everybody forever. Thanks again. I'll see you in my next one. Till then, stay tuned and make sure that you keep creating.